welcome back to our J-Syd InstaLive series. It's our very first video for 2021 and I'm super excited to be back and bringing you more wonderful Japanese culture and connections from right here in our very own backyard of Australia and Sydney. For those who are new, my name is Jessica. I'm your host. I work for the Consulate-General of Japan here in Sydney, and I am incredibly stoked today to be able to talk with our special guest, Mr. Peter Gibson, who is the Executive Advisor for Tokyo 2020 Olympic and Paralympic Games. So give me a few seconds while I invite him on, and while I do so, we're going to be talking about the Tomodachi Connect 2021 program, which is a wonderful initiative connecting Australia-Japanese schools, the Olympic torch relay that's coming up, as well as a little bit about Peter himself. So I'll invite him on. Second now. Wonderful. Hello, Peter.
Hello, everybody. Let me just get set up here a little bit better. I can get Steve Hooker, our gold medalist, in the background if I can.
Oh, lovely.
So hello, Jessica, and thanks very much for having me.
No, thank you so much for being able to join and taking your time to be able to talk with me today.
My pleasure. My pleasure. We've received so much fantastic support from the Consulate-General in Sydney, and as a matter of fact, the Embassy in Canberra and all of the Consulate-Generals all around. So it's been a wonderful experience so far, and I thank you for all your support.
Well, we thank you for your support and hard work as well. So are we ready to kick off?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. I think we're
absolutely fine. Wonderful. So can we just talk a little bit first about the wonderful Tomodachi Connect 2021 program?
Yeah, absolutely. It's an initiative of the Australian Olympic Committee, and it's actually the only National Olympic Committee in the world which is taken an initiative to actually join Australian youth or join youth through the spirit of the Olympics. We ran a pilot program after the postponement of the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games. We ran a pilot program last year in conjunction with the Australian Embassy in Japan, and we chose 20 schools in Australia and 20 schools in Japan, and linked up about 1,500 students. And the pilot program was such a success, and we had wonderful feedback, that we decided to roll out the program in full in 2021.
Yeah, no, that's wonderful to hear. I'm so glad that the pilot program was that successful. How exactly does it work, the connecting the two schools together?
Well, obviously COVID brought around some very special circumstances, and it was important that we felt that during COVID that and my job here is to be a link between the Australian Olympic and Paralympic committees in Japan, and I felt it was really important that we actually show Japan that we haven't forgotten, and that we are still there with them. Australia and Japan, as you know, Jessica, has an incredible relationship, and we felt that it was important. So what we've done now, and as of today, I can tell you, we've got 335 schools registered as of today, and registrations don't close until April the 19th. That is the good news. The bad news, or is that we need more Japanese schools. We actually have 260 Australian schools registered, and we're looking to make sure that we get a lot more Japanese schools. We realise that this is the time of the year where Japanese schools are in the middle of Sotsugyōshiki, or their graduation ceremonies, and Nyugakushiki, which is their entrance one, which is very important to Japanese culture, I understand it. So hopefully, as we understand with the approval process in Japan, as more and more teachers get approval from their principals and their kocho sensei, we'll have more schools coming on. So we knew that one of the great things about the Tomodachi program is Australia is really, and apart from New Zealand, is really the only English-speaking country, or native English-speaking country, which shares the same time zone as Japan. So this would be an impossibility for us to do it live in real time, to be able to share these experiences with kids, if Australian and Japanese kids, if it was done Japan and England, or Japan and America. So we're really, really lucky in that way. And now we're rolling that out. The children and the classes that we do match up, that we've found through the pilot program, they can do everything with it. Could be emails, they could be video clips backwards and forwards, they could do live Zoom sessions or whatever particular platform they need to do. It's really, we conduct the match-ups. After that, it's the teachers that really do a lot of the work.
Yes, and the teachers here are obviously fantastic, and over in Japan as well, for making the magic happen.
Yes, very much so. Very much so. And, you know, a lot of people don't realise that in primary, secondary and even university, that Japanese is actually the most widespread taught language in Australia. And a lot of people don't actually know that. And I think that's it really speaks volumes of the relationship between Australia and Japan. And I feel that, of all things, and I'm probably getting ahead of myself at the moment, that this is an opportunity. The legacy of this particular program is an opportunity for the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games to live on in the relationship between Australia and Japan for a long, long time.
Yes, no, you're definitely right about that. And I think this program especially shows that, well, judging by how many Australian schools have signed up, that there is a keen interest and a passion to be able to share our two wonderful countries and cultures.
Yes, you know, and the feedback that we got from the pilot program was, you know, 100% of the teachers wanted to continue. They wanted to continue with the schools that they'd already been matched with. And the feedback, and when it is, when you think about the volume and the size of this, really, we can only do it if we've got the support of all the things. We've got the support of the Monbu Kagakusho, the Ministry of Education in Japan, and that speaks volumes of this, because that sort of support is not given out lightly, as you probably are aware. We're very happy that through the support of Consulate-General Kia and Ambassador Yamagami, and all of the Consul Generals around Australia, we've been able to get the support of MOFA, the Gaimusho, or the Ministry of Foreign Affairs. We've got the support of the International Olympic Committee, the TOCOG, the embassies in Australia, embassies in Japan. And it's just been wonderful that when you think a little bit more deeply about this particular opportunity, we have anything between 20 to 30,000 children who will be sharing the culture and language of each other's country. And when you think about that from a generational perspective, I may not be around, but you think about those children getting older and their work going in, and they're becoming the leaders of tomorrow, and the relationship that they have developed and the way they feel about each other's country. I think it's a phenomenal program. And I think, you know, this type of soft diplomacy between Australia and Japan is vital.
Yes, no, absolutely. So if I were a Japanese language teacher here in Australia, what information do I need to know? How do I register? How do I get involved?
Everything is on our website. It's as simple as www.olympics.com.au. And you'll see in part of that, one of the drop-down menus is the Australian Olympic Connect Tomodachi Nisen but 2021. Everything is there. There's a 32-minute webinar which we did for all of our Japanese side of things. I'm not sure whether it's actually been subtitled, majority of it into English, but it's been emceed by myself, which I was very proud to do. And honoured to do, and we've got guests there, which is both of the ambassadors, the Australian ambassador to Japan and the Japanese ambassador to, and also our own president, which is the president of the coordination committee for the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games, our president, John Coates. And we've also got some great feedback there from the people who were in the pilot program. So the registration form is there. We've got frequently asked questions sections, educational resources, all of the things that make it easy for a Japanese language teacher here or an English language teacher in Japan to actually make this a reality.
Yes, I've seen the website. It is definitely very comprehensive, and I think
in English and Japanese too.
Yes, exactly, in both languages. So it's very accessible for everybody who wants to get involved. So obviously still on the topics of the Olympics, as you and I are both aware, and hopefully some other, but maybe they're not quite, the official Olympic torch relay is actually kicking off tomorrow.
Yes, yes, it is. It's very exciting, and I will also just quickly place in there that the Paralympics in Japan is an exceptionally important part of this whole process too. We go back to 1964, and it was actually the very first, and so Japan has a very strong history with the Paralympic Games, and I think considering, you know, Japan is my second home, as you know, Jessica, and I've been involved for 35 years and cannot imagine my life without Japan. And funnily enough, you know, we were talking about it just the other day, that after the Olympics, I feel, and the Paralympics, I feel that there's a real opportunity for increased awareness of disabilities, diversity, inclusion in Japan, which I think is going to be one of the great steps societally, if that's a word, for Japan in the future. So the relay absolutely kicks off at J Village, as a matter of fact, and as you probably know, Tohoku area is very close to my heart. I've been involved with the recovery efforts in Tohoku since the disaster in 2011. And J Village was actually used as accommodation in the parking lot for a lot of the reconstruction vehicles and reconstruction workers. That has now been returned to a sports facility. It's one of the best sports facilities in the world. But yes, tomorrow, the sakura-shaped, or the cherry blossom-shaped flame, which is actually one of my Facebook photos, is the cherry blossom flame, is actually kicking off on its 47 prefecture journey around Japan, and will be heading into Tokyo about July the 8th, which it will then move throughout the 21 cities of Tokyo.
Yeah, no, that's fantastic. It's amazing that the relay is going to be going through all 47 prefectures of Japan. That's quite a distance.
I'd like to say that I've actually done all 47 prefectures before the torch has. So one of my claims to fame is I actually have been to all 47 Todofuken.
Well, then you're an expert.
Well, I wouldn't say I'm an expert. I think that a lot of you know, Australians or foreigners who have visited Japan have a little bit of a one-dimensional feel about Japan sometimes, and the diversity of the country as you travel from the different prefectures to different prefectures is really quite marked. I hope that people especially get to enjoy, when we are able to travel again and the tourist business does return to Japan, I hope people are able to explore some of the off the beaten tracks, such as the 6 prefectures of Tohoku.
Yes, I also can personally attest for Tohoku being a magnificent area,
yes,
to tour around. Yes, it's very beautiful up there. So with the torch relay, I'm sure that people in Australia would be very keen to follow its path. Do you know how us here can get involved in the journey of the relay?
Absolutely. All you've got to do is Google or search Olympic channel. And the Olympic channel is the IOC channel, which gives you live updates, etc., of the Olympic relay, and will give you everything that you need to know about the upcoming games in Tokyo.
Excellent. Wonderful. So moving on to talk a little bit about yourself. So you did mention earlier that you've gone through all 47 prefectures before the magnificent torch has.
I didn't get any attention, I can guarantee you. I'm sure that the torch will get plenty of attention.
What would you... Obviously, Tohoku is very special to your heart. So this might already be an answered question, but if you had to give your top 3 travel recommendations to people wanting to come and visit Japan or visit Japan again and go further in the country, what would they be?
Oh, you know, it's very hard to go past, obviously, the areas of Tohoku. I've got a lot of favourites, and I get asked this question quite often. It's a very, very difficult question to answer. Personally, I've got one which is a little bit strange because of my love for a particular baseball team. But I think one of the great experiences. So if I was to say Fukushima in particular, is one area which I really want to support, and I spent a lot of time in Fukushima before the events of 2011. And I think we've really got to work very hard to actually get the world to understand the beauty of Fukushima and for example, the Aizu Wakamatsu area. I'd love Australians to understand that there are many, many more places to ski in Japan than just Niseko and Hakuba. The areas of Iwate and the coastline of Iwate and Miyagi Prefecture in particular, again, a hidden secret of that area. They've just opened up a 600-kilometre trail up there called Michinoku, which follows the coastline, which was actually, well, obviously the coastline inundated by the tsunami, but there's a trail up there which is, you know, would rival some of the best walks in the world. So the opportunities for Japan in the sports and adventure tourism in particular, I think, are extremely strong. And I do know that obviously the Japan National Tourism Organisation is changing their strategy a little bit on that. And I think there's some great opportunities after the Olympics for sports, education and adventure tourism. My favourite place in Japan, I will be unashamedly will tell you, is Koshien Stadium. Koshien Stadium for a home game with the Hanshin Tigers is one of the most enjoyable experiences you'll ever have in Japan. And when I first went there, I remember being, 1985, we just won the title in 85, 1986. I went there and I think I might have been just maybe the first foreigner, or maybe even just the first foreigner there was actually in the stands, not playing the game. And I've been a fan ever since. No?
Sorry, it seems
That's all right.
We've got some power saving happening in here. Let me just flip my lights back on.
Yeah, so we certainly, so those areas of Tohoku, I'm a Hanshin person, so that obviously Koshien Stadium, etc. And I'm a bit of a Kansai fan in particular, but if I would had to make a choice, it's so hard. You've got the beautiful areas of Shikoku, Ehime, up through those hours, Kagawa, and then don't forget the Japan Sea side of things. You've got, we've just recently, I was fortunate enough to be working with Rugby World Cup and Ishikawa Prefecture. And last but not least, if you let me just indulge me for just a moment, Jessica, one of the hidden gems, and so easy and so wonderful to get to, is Shizuoka. So Shizuoka has so much to offer, whether it be my friends Masanori Shintani, he runs a Satoyama Mount Fuji glamping site. He has a glamping site at the foot of Mount Fuji. They're right there, and it's an incredible experience. So if you ever need to do something like that, Satoyama Mount Fuji eco tour or glamping site.
That definitely does sound something that should be on my bucket list to do.
Yeah, that wasn't 3. I'm sorry.
That's okay. It's a little bit of a mean question to people who have travelled to Japan quite extensively. There's a little bit of everything
Correct.
Everywhere in the country. It's very hard to narrow down.
Correct. It's one of the few countries, we talked about sports and adventure tourism, which I think Australia is a market ready for that. It's one of the few countries that you could actually be skiing one day and jump on a plane and be scuba diving in Okinawa the next. It's
Have you done that
possible. I've been to Okinawa, but scuba diving is not one of my greatest things, but certainly skiing. Certainly at my friend's place at Mother Isle Resort near Iyama in Nagano Prefecture. So yes, and places that people and I've said this before, if you don't mind me saying so, Jessica, Japan has everything. It is so accessible, but I've got to say that sometimes the Japanese nature is to not say how good we've got everything, is to be rather reserved, and probably the ability just to promote Japan and be a self-promoter is something I think we could really work on. Let's just say if America had all of those particular things that we're talking about, they would be singing it from the rooftops. Japanese nature is not to do that.
Well, that's why we need wonderful promoters such as yourself.
No, it's a labour of love.
So, how did you come to have this special connection with Japan? What first sparked it, Peter?
Most foreigners, I do love actually asking nearly every person that I come in contact with, gaijin, a foreigner who has an affection or a connection with Japan. I really love. I'd love to write a book one day, because everybody's story is different. I think my story is rather unique. I was an aspiring professional tennis player back in the days when I had hair, Jessica. I wasn't good enough to make it in Europe, and I certainly wasn't good enough to get a scholarship in the United States, the universities. At that stage, Sydney, I was born and bred in Northbridge, and Tokyo Mart was just around the corner, which some people might know as the Japanese supermarket in Sydney. I never even knew where Japan was on the map. And I found myself in Asia, playing some tournaments, etc., and ended up in Osaka. I lost one tournament in Asia, went straight to Osaka, and realized my first experience is that you can't achieve anything in Japan without an introduction or an invitation. So you can't just turn up and say, I'd like to play. I experienced, that was my first experience, and I really liked the place. Even then, Sydney only had, I can remember reading my great friend Hideo Dekura, who's a culinary genius here in Sydney, Dekura-san's book on Japanese cooking, and he signed it in 1986 for me. And at the back of it, it had the list of every Japanese restaurant in Sydney. And there was 12 Japanese restaurants in Sydney in 1986. Now, so you could imagine that just Japan was not really on anybody's radar at that time. And I went over there, came back to Australia, and started my own business here in the tennis industry, and then went back to Japan and got contracted as the first ever foreigner in the Japan Professional Tennis Association. So mine wasn't the English teacher, it wasn't and I got contracted to Wilson Sporting Goods in Japan. This is during the bubble period, so it was a very interesting time to be in Japan, great time to be in Japan. And I was contracted to them and spent a lot of the time traveling around Japan, essentially playing and promoting the Wilson goods. And then left and we got picked up by Yonex, and that started a lifelong love affair.
And in that initial period, is that where you did your most traveling around the prefectures? How long did it take you to conquer all 47?
I actually only recently did it. To be honest with you, I actually hadn't been to Iwate Prefecture until 2013. And I'm not sure whether you're aware of it, but one of the things that I did in 2013, in 2011, I couldn't get away from my job at that time to help in Tohoku. And in 2013, I actually took a redundancy and had a bit of time on my hands. And I decided to walk by myself from Fukushima to Kamaishi, which took me about 18 days. And during that time, I stopped at different places along the way and did volunteer tennis lessons. It's all I could really do. And just for the children, etc. Places in Ishinomaki, like Ishinomaki Lawn Tennis Club with Honma-san, and just did some lessons for the kids there, just to bring a smile to their face. And that was an experience I'll never forget. 18 days. It was only 2 and a bit years after the disaster. So the effects were still very, very raw, and something which I'll never forget. I was walking from Fukushima all the way to Kamaishi, and that was when I finished off. That was all 47. So even Tottori got a run in there at some times, and poor Tottori, people forget about it.
No, that's incredible listening to your story on how you first started your passion with Japan. It's definitely very unique. I can't say I've met many people who have started such an incredible journey with Japan through tennis and sports.
And my
so
career has gone in different directions, and certainly now as I wouldn't have imagined, at that time that I'd now be helping the Australian Olympic team and Paralympic team to get to Tokyo. And it's very interesting in the sense that this is like no other games that we've ever had before. So there's so many different variables in the air, so many different logistical problems, and we're working hard for that they can have a safe and enjoyable time, and they can perform at their best. And I'm absolutely loving that. I'm very pleased that Japan, and I've just spent 3 years doing Rugby World Cup in Japan, and that was one of my proudest moments in my relationship with Japan. But it was very nice of Japan to put 2 of the 3 biggest sporting events on the planet on in Japan in my lifetime. Thank you very much, Japan.
That's wonderful to hear, and we're all obviously cheering for the Olympics and Paralympic Games to go ahead, and to go ahead safely for everyone involved.
Yeah, it's really something which is actually, obviously, with the postponement and COVID pandemic, and the way in which we both know the resilience of the Japanese people and the ability to bring things together and to make it happen. During the Rugby World Cup, we had Typhoon Hagibis, and we had and there was some major games there that were about to be, and it was literally 6 hours before kickoff that the Yokohama Stadium was underwater, being on a floodplain, and the ability of Japan to deliver in a humble, very quiet, very efficient way, but to deliver what they did, which I think would probably be one of the best Rugby World Cups ever, was just amazing.
It's definitely one of Japan's great strengths.
Yes, yeah, very much so. And something which, it's really taught me a lot about resilience and the ability to work hard in those sort of environments.
And of course, the Tokyo 2020-21 is another wonderful opportunity for them to demonstrate that resilience.
There's a lot of the light that brings people together. The way in which we have Japan's got such a wonderful opportunity on the world stage. Unfortunately, we won't be seeing too much in the way of foreign spectators, etc. But I believe that the Japanese people can really showcase the resilience and the spirit of Japan, and we need this to be something which would bring the world together, and Japan to lead the way in overcoming this pandemic and working towards the end of it. I think if we can have that as a safe Olympic Games and the Paralympic Games, it will really showcase Japan. And then hopefully, as we work towards a little bit of recovery, economically and historically, the recovery of the period of time just after the Olympic Games in the host country is a really fruitful and economically beneficial time. So I hope that's the same for Japan.
We all hope so. Well, unfortunately, it is time for us to end our chat today, Peter. But I thank you so much for joining. It was lovely getting to talk to you and learn a little bit more about the Olympic Tomodachi Connect project and the relay, as well as yourself.
No, thank you, Jessica, and thank you to the Consul-General in Sydney. I was lucky enough to have dinner Kia-san's place the other night with also Mr. McNeil, who was leading the rescue party into Minami Sanriku all those years ago in 2011. So it's really, and Kia-san, and also the Japanese government and the Japanese embassy in Canberra, and all the consul generals around Japan, when we first started this particular journey of the Australian Olympic Connect Tomodachi program, have been a wonderful supporter. So if anybody is there that does know of Japanese schools, especially in Japanese schools, who would like to join, we'd love to have them join. And I think it's going to be just a fantastic legacy and part of the Beyond 2020 or 2021 now legacy program of the Tokyo Olympic and Paralympic Games.
Yes, I'm wholeheartedly 100% behind that. I'm sure that it will create a fantastic legacy.
And anything that I can do from the Australian Olympic and also the Paralympic committee side of things, anything we can do, it's just a matter of reaching out to us, and I'll certainly do all I can to make sure that the relationship between Australia and Japan through the Olympics and Paralympics improves on a daily basis.
Well, I'm sure that we're all very lucky to have you leading us all into the Tokyo 2021 Olympics and Paralympic Games.
And I'm just one small part of the team.
That's true. It is all teamwork, isn't it?
Oh yes, very much so. And
Yes.
there's so many kotowaza in Japanese that really do lead the way. So proverbs and sayings that we have in Japanese. And I remember we did the 10th anniversary with 10th anniversary memorial just recently of the Great East Japan earthquake and tsunami disaster. And I had the pleasure of emceeing that jointly with a lovely lady by the name of Haruka Shina, and who did a great job. And one of the sayings that we came out of that was that nanakorobi aoki, right? And that's one of the great Japanese sayings is you fall down 7 times, but you get up 8.
It's a lovely kotowaza.
Yeah.
And I think it's definitely going to embody the current situation for the Olympics and the world.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
Well, thank you very much for sharing your time with us today and leaving us with that beautiful kotowaza.
No, Jessica, you're welcome. And look, thank you very much for reaching out to me, and any opportunity that I have to actually be involved with the Australia-Japan relationship is a happy day, and it doesn't feel like work at all.
Well, that's good. I'm sure that we'll be talking with each other again soon.
Yeah, I look forward to it.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Peter. I'm going to see you off. So give me 2 seconds. Whoops, I'm pressing the wrong buttons here. See you later, Peter. Oop. Sorry, Instagram has actually changed where things are operating on the live, and I don't know how to say goodbye to you.
I'll take that as a compliment.
It's not ready to let you go yet, Peter. In that case, while you're still on the line with us, I'm just going to quickly wrap up our session with everybody here. So thank you everyone in the audience for coming along and joining our wonderful talk with Peter Gibson here today. Hopefully, if you're a Japanese language teacher, you have a look into the Tomodachi Connect 2021 program, or if you know some English teachers over in Japan, or even people maybe on the JET program who are teaching English at their schools. So maybe if you let them know about the program so they can let the school know about the program, that would be fantastic. But yes, so don't forget that tomorrow the official Olympic torch relay kicks off. Very exciting. We're all excited to watch that. And our next InstaLive is going to be coming to you on April 14, and it's going to be about origami. Are you any good at origami, Peter?
No. There is a wonderful tower which is just next to the A-bomb dome, which is just opened up, and you can do some origami classes once you've gone to the top and had a look at the A-bomb dome. And it's just opened up, and you can do some wonderful origami there. I did that during the Rugby World Cup, and most of the rugby players that I took to Japan were terrible, as you could imagine.
So go up there and practice a few times.
Yep.
Improve your origami skills.
Yeah, absolutely.
Well, maybe you can be an audience member in our next InstaLive and pick up some origami skills through there. Wonderful. Once again, thank you very much, Peter. It was lovely to have you on today.